Hey everyone, Richard Metal Fan here, bringing you guys another album review, continuing the Behemoth discography. And today we're going to be looking into the Apostasy. This is the band's 8th album, released in 2007. Now, of course, in the previous review we talked about Demigod being like one of my favorite albums. Well, was my favorite album until the Satanist, but we're not there yet. And that was sort of like my point of my introduction to the band and how I discovered them and how they're one of my all-time favorite bands. And then here we are 3 years later with the release of the Apostasy. Now, I feel like the Apostasy is kind of in the same vein as Demigod, like production-wise, the song structures, all that stuff. But I feel like with this album, they kind of add some different stuff, whether it be like piano, which, and sort of like horn section, unlike most of their previous albums as well as some like different like vocals stuff that they've experimented with, whether it be choirs, different guests and all that stuff. And sort of like also has a sense of like melody as well. The production, the way to describe the production on this album is very mechanical sounding, like it just sounds like a beast. But then that's pretty much Behemoth in a nutshell. Nurgle just sounds awesome. Like his guitar playing, as long as Seth's guitars, just like the leads, the soloing, all that awesome shit is just so fucking good. And the bass playing from Orion is just very thunderous and just pounding. Like if you hear, it really cuts well in the mix. And the drumming from Inferno is just, that dude's a beast. I don't even know how he does what he does, but it's just awesome. And yeah, without further ado, let's dive into this album track by track. Now, the album opens up with a little instrumental called Rome 64 CE. He was kind of like sets the tone with its haunting, wavering Middle Eastern vocal part, leading into a pounding military cadence that sets you up for the devastating proper opening track, which is Slaying the Prophets of Isa. Which is a blasting monster of a tune. The aforementioned riff chunks, as well as sort of like subtle choral effects, making it one of the several highlights on the album. And I sort of like they added like an extra layer of depth and passion to the music. And I love there's sort of like a horn section up here as well, which is properly utilized throughout this track. I love it. Then we go into Promethean, which is another blast fest that tears at like 100 miles per hour and packs a multitude of ideas in just a little over 3 minutes without seeming like overkill. And lots of guitar parts and some of Inferno's most frenzied drumming on this little gem. And then we go into At the Left Hand of God, which features again a variety of different tempos, most often an arresting riff on like the verses. Says with sort of like the choir enhances Nurgle's thunderous roars of rage and contempt against Christianity. And the drumming and the bass work on the song is excellent, especially at the end where Inferno and Orion take sort of like a tribal sounding feel with the chanting part that adds sort of like immeasurability to that part. And that makes you want to like bang your head at the time with sort of like catchy bouncing drumming. And this is probably my favorite song on the album, like both musically and lyrically. Then we go into Krieg's Philosophy. I probably butchered that. I think it's a good song. I like it. Be Without Fear, with its excellent call and response backing vocals and sort of like the chorus, and is one of a groovy chugger that packs a lot of punch in 3 minutes. Arcana Heretica. It showcases like a trumpet trio, sort of like the trumpet, trombone, and French horn. And Nurgle's vocals aren't layered anymore, but turns into sort of like a more raspier and deeper. And it sort of has some unrelenting distortion and illustration on these aforementioned gods is what gives a plausible identity to each of the songs. And the tone of the album is very eerie sounding, but adds more leads and heavier riffs that wouldn't be depleting any sort of sentimental aspects of the album. Ultimately, anti-Christianity is described between the lines. Next song is Liberthim, which I thought was a pretty good song. I enjoy it. Inner Sanctum, which I think is a pretty interesting song, and I like to talk about that one. It's another favorite of mine on the album, which features some dark and disturbing lyrics, and it has like a spoken word part from the late great Will Dane of Nevermore, rest in peace. And it's sort sort of like torture cries of suffering that alienates, so sort of like Nurgle's roaring delivery in it. And there's also a little bit of like a jazz piano which contributes it, which makes it sort of like menacing and all too brief. That sort of like sets up the song perfectly and really adds to sort of like the dark and doom-filled atmosphere. And the lyrics of the song make you wonder how sort of like sad, angry, self-hating, depressed he could be as well. Well, sort of like the way Nurgle conveys the track. Yeah, and then we go into Pazuzu. Starts off with some thundering war drums and a serpentine bass with hanging distant chords that take you on, off into like the speed of light again, and sort of like a real eruption of negative energy and fury, as Nurgle's lines notes imply. One of the most furious songs on this album, and it's a fitting war anthem for the demon and disease of destruction. And then we get to the closing track, which is Christ Grinding Avenue, which sort of like wraps up the proceedings in fine fashion with effective central melody, swirling licks, and keyboard silvers. Now, overall, the Apostasy by Behemoth, I feel like is a good album. It's a step up from Demigod, or in the same vein, but also had like different stuff, whether it be with different horn sections, piano. I feel like, which makes it stand out from like the previous albums. But if I were to give the Apostasy a score, I'm going to give this album probably a solid 9 out of 10. So yeah, that's my review of the Apostasy, guys. Let me know in the comments what you guys think about it. See you all in the next video. Keep it metal.